Welcome to The Grow Show, powered by Steel. On The Grow Show, we share ideas, tips, tactics, and insights to help you grow your landscaping business based on our team's 40 years of experience running a landscaping company and working with other owners and their teams to do the same. New episodes are released weekly on Wednesdays. Here's your host, Marty Grunder.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. This is Marty Grunder from Grunder Landscaping Company and the Grow Group with another exciting edition of The Grow Show, powered by Steel. In the Steel Studios with me today.
The Grow Show.
The what?
The Grow Show.
The Grow Show.
I gotta lean away from it.
Oh, you're all right. Thank you. I thought we were doing something wrong. We've got Seth Flum, our president from Grunder Landscaping Company, in here today on the second edition here of a two-part series. The first one, Seth, we talked about buying versus leasing. We gave a little bit of our philosophy, shared some really good tips and tactics that maybe hopefully will help our followers. Today, I want to talk about replacing. We love our trucks. I mean, I have a nice Toyota pickup truck. You got a nice Toyota 4Runner. We like them and everything, but they're not monuments.
No. Except maybe mine.
Well, maybe mine too. They are the two cleanest trucks in the fleet. We've got a lot of nice vehicles. I've lost count on how many vehicles we have now. It's quite a few. It's 45 maybe.
I don't know. I'd have to check the bill myself.
I lost track because we bought a lot of new ones to satisfy the growth. But I think, through the years, visiting over 200 landscaping companies, having my own landscaping company, working closely with you, a lot of contractors look at their equipment as assets, which they are assets, okay? But I also have heard people, I think, and this is where I think they're making a mistake, where they'll say, well, it's paid for, and I'm really excited, it's paid for, and this truck is worth this, and that's fine, that's good, I get it. But we've learned that you're either going to have a payment for a new truck, or you're going to have a payment to work on one, really. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the bigger pieces of equipment, I think we have 4-wheel loaders or something like that, because we're doing a lot more snow. We've got an older cat loader that we wouldn't get rid of. I mean, it makes sense to keep it. That stuff's, that stuff's a little more heavy duty. But the replacement, when do we look at replacing a truck? Let's talk a little bit about the dynamic that goes on here and what you think the best practice there is.
So, my motto, the first thing is just don't replace or buy it because you need a tax write-off.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Justify that you're efficient.
Great point. We see contractors scrambling in December for the 173 deduction, and they say they need a tax deduction, which is silly.
Do you really need it? Is there something else?
Yeah.
Because if you're not paying cash for it, you got debt.
Yeah,
and you got a loan payment. So weigh that into that decision. Right.
Don't just go because to avoid tax.
Yeah. And good accountants, great CPAs want to mitigate your tax burden, but a lot of times they don't look in the future of revenue, and is that tool producing the amount of revenue it should? And that's what a truck is a tool. I mean, it's an asset, but how much revenue is it producing? Right,
exactly.
So just don't buy to do that, or buy because it's the new shiny thing.
Right.
My motto is, once it's been, we're going to depreciate over 5 years, tack another 5 on it, and after that, you're really going to start seeing it go down.
So about 10 years.
About 10 years, you're going to see the truck, it's fully depreciated, so you're not getting any tax liability,
benefit from
it. And typically at that point in time, repair costs are going up, creeping up. That's would be my suggestion to look at and balance that, and every company is a little bit different. We are getting to the point where even some of our older trucks we're just going to hold on to. They're not going to be out working every single day, but they're there for salt in the winter.
And we're putting a hopper on the back, and they're out in the night and everything else. The image is less of an issue. We've got I think it's a 20-plus-year-old Freightliner that you said is hell on wheels for salting.
Yeah, and it worked great. It was my truck of choice. We're replacing it with a newer truck this year. But we're going to keep it out on salting.
Right.
It's probably only going to last another 2 years. Our 3 oldest trucks maybe only have two more years left. Bill has been watching it closely on their value.
He's our fleet manager.
Our fleet manager, looking at the value, and then we've had some repairs this year, and he goes, we may squeak 2 more out.
Right.
And then we take care of them.
Right.
We put there's a new wash that we're trying out this year for the salt, and a coating that Bill's working on with Jimmy. But
who's one of our group leaders?
One of our group leaders.
Snow super.
Yep. So be smart about when you actually need that truck first.
Right.
And then from there, it's a judgment call of how much money you're putting into replacing it. or repairing it before we replace it.
Right.
I like equipment and trucks, but I can tell you what I dislike more is it sitting there or it's
Right.
not being efficiently used.
Because it's paid for, or I like it, or whatever.
We have a Class 7 Freightliner. I think it was one of your first trucks, right? We still have
701.
And 2 years ago, I just wanted to get rid of it.
Right.
And then Jimmy goes, well, how are we going to haul the product from our screening facility down here
to the bins?
To the bins. He goes, we don't put any money in it.
Right.
It never breaks down. How are we going to replace that? And I was like, you got a point.
Right.
So you got to be aware of how you're using what you're doing.
So share with our followers on the Grow Show powered by Steel, who are the people that are involved? Because I'm not involved in the fleet decisions. I think when we have a budget we agree upon, I mean, I'm not even involved in purchasing the trucks. You know what we need to get, you go get it. Who do you get involved in? Like, are we going to get another truck? Are we going to replace one? Give our followers a little bit of insight on how we handle. And I'm not saying we do it the absolute perfect way. It works really well for us.
And it's evolved immensely over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It was myself and Dalton making those decisions. And now, this year, we sat down, came up with our budget for 24 in April, or actually March, and then came up with our tactical plan, what we needed. And then I said, Bill, start getting quotes, start planning it, figuring out what we have. All right, that's the best case scenario. We realized maybe we could be more efficient, and then in July we tweaked that and said, remove some trucks from that plan. We think we're going to gain more efficiency.
Right.
And from that point, we took it to the operations managers, Bill and myself, and said, this is what we're looking at.
What do you think?
What do you think?
Okay.
It was pretty cool to hear them. They're like, well, all we want is 2 more dump trailers. That would solve a lot of it, and we don't need 2 more trucks.
Yeah.
And
I think that's
being collaborative.
Yeah,
I think trailer's cheap compared to
exactly, and I think that's growth, because the prior regime that we had, a lot of nice people, great people, but they were really into equipment, and we've had a change in philosophies. Like, I really believe our group leaders, our operations managers, they're into making money because they're incentivized, and they don't want more trucks because it means their bonus is going to be less. They're motivated to do what's the best thing you can do there. And that's been it's just been a nice dialogue going on there.
In 2 ways, the way our bonus program works, and we love the overtime.
Right.
Because overtime, and I'll use this example, 3 people work 40 hours a week, 120 hours. You want to produce now 130 hours, but you don't want overtime. What do you got to do? You got to hire somebody, $20 an hour. You buy another truck.
And
then you have
more equipment,
more
to put
indirect
in the
time,
truck and all that.
More indirect time now, because you're going back and forth with another person, and then you'll have more offsite time. All right, or you just have those individuals work 2 extra hours every day.
Right, and if you factor in the fact these are experienced employees that are probably working at a higher, more productive level than somebody new, that is one of the things when people come to visit us, they're surprised that we do overtime. And we'll hear them say that we frown on overtime. There's a moratorium on overtime. It's only the
premium.
That's it.
So we gained 30 hours, paying $10 extra an hour
of a guy that we know knows how to do the work, less equipment,
and we didn't have to buy the truck.
Right.
And it was less drive time back and forth because we added an hour on in the morning and the afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
Guess where that goes?
And I guess culturally speaking, what we should share with you too is, we have men and women here that want to work. Like, they want the hours. Mm-hmm. They get upset when they don't get overtime. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it works for us, folks. It may not work for you, but we're giving you insights today on the Grow Show powered by Steel. Seth Flum, our president from Grunder Landscaping, is in the Steel Studios with me today. We're talking about replacements and where you do that, when you do that, so on and so forth. Is there any other angle to replacements that you want to talk about? What about smaller pieces of equipment? Weed eaters, blowers, mowers are bigger. Talk to everyone about what we do with that.
So there's another way you replace. I just want to touch on it when we're retooling. We had some trucks that we're going to use as spare trucks for next year, or they allow us to be flexible.
Okay.
Because we have a theory of how we're going to be efficient. We haven't tried it yet. So if we do come through on all these maintenance contracts, it takes a long time to order a custom truck.
That's the other problem.
Custom truck.
Right.
We're gonna just flex-execute it next year.
Right. With trucks we had that aren't perfect, but they're here.
They're here.
Right.
And we can add a trailer on them and make it work.
Make it work for a year.
Yep.
Right.
So they were getting replaced because we retooled, but we're going to keep them as flexibility of growth. So they're here. We're not going to customize one because it's hinged on sales. To answer your question about smaller equipment, we try to maintain as much as we can in-house. But what we found, we kept stuff in-house for so long.
Yeah.
When we took it outside, they said you're going to pay more to fix it than what it's worth, and just finding parts for it.
Right.
So that's the big thing. Be aware of how much you're putting into it. And a weed eater, it's not that expensive.
Right.
If you get 5 years out of it, that's great.
Right.
And Bill has a better philosophy on it. He's managing that, coming up with how long he thinks we should have. I'm backing out of it more.
Right.
He might be the one that will educate us both on how to roll.
Well, and we're running good stuff, folks. You want to guess what we're using? We're using Steel equipment, which we love.
Yeah.
The stuff is extremely dependable. They've been great working with us on teaching us how to maintain it. There's a program we put them through in the winter that I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's with cleaning the carbon out. That's about the extent I know. You may want to talk to your local steel dealer about extending the life of your stuff that way. What about mowers? Vermeer mini skid steers, John Deere skid steers, mini excavator? We're John Deere, we're Vermeer. Mowers, what about those?
Yeah, the mowers, 3 years ago we had 6 mowers, and now we have 28.
Yeah, I was going to say 30,
24.
right?
Yeah,
a lot.
I've lost track.
Right.
And we have another 8 or 10 on order for next year. In addition, those are not replacements; those are growth. So it's new for me. Bill's working with some great vendors on what's the lifespan of a commercial mower using every day. Before we hit that tipping point, it's fully depreciated, and then we're spending too much money to repair it constantly or downtime.
So Bill is our fleet manager, and all that stuff is entered in Aspire. He's following it. You talk about what can be measured, can be improved. We also talk a lot about the fact that good managers make good decisions with good information. I mean, he's tracking all that. So we're getting data that we're probably guessing some right now, but it's getting to be the point, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, where it's less and less getting, and it's facts.
Yes.
We're seeing what's happening.
Yeah. For the first half of the year, it's really been guessing, but Bill's been watching how many hours are put on per week per mower, because we're driving from property to property. So mow team may be working 60 hours, but how much is each mower actually cutting? So how many weeks per year, how many hours per year can we get out of those mowers before we're hitting the 3,000 mark or whatever Bill was talking and researching that we need to start saying every 3 years or 4 years we've got to replace 10 of them plus add 10 for growth. And he's working on that. But he was asking me this spring when he took the position. I said, Bill, we had a fraction.
We didn't have a fleet manager. We had some. It was kind of like a tag team, and things were suffering, and we had grown. Like we've almost tripled the size of the business in the last 3 years. And so we haven't tripled the amount of equipment on the mowers we have, but on the trucks we haven't. We've just become more efficient there, but we're learning a lot as we go.
And you have someone that spends 50 hours a week thinking about the fleet.
Exactly.
And he's came up with a lot of great ideas. Once again, ideas, but then he says, I'm going to put this in place and this in place to track it. I mean, we have telematics on them, so we know how much they're running, and he's watching it, and then he's going to get a good gauge. But it was theory, and he was asking me the questions. Great questions. I didn't have the answers because first, we had 6 mowers, and then
exactly.
we've never had
and I don't
had to worry about them.
Exactly. All right, buying versus leasing. We covered that in the episode in part 1. We've gone in pretty good in depth here with replacements. Is there any other thing you want to share on the equipment, like with the replacements? To me, the biggest thing that I hear you saying, and that I feel we've done a good job, is like strip the emotion out of it. You think this thing's a monument, or you think it's worth a lot of money, so you hold it on, but then it's dripping you to death, or it's no longer fitting your needs the way you want it. Like the truck, the flatbed dump truck, and the 16-foot enclosed trailer that we're using to do maintenance visits, we don't want that anymore. It's too much. I didn't even think about it. It's also an extra 4 tires on the road, and brakes you got to fix, and everything else. So
and if you have something older and it's around the shop and it works, we have a 753 Bobcat that works in the plant yard, and
25 years old. I don't know.
We have 2 PM services a year. I mean, yeah, we had a hydraulic line break, but you have them break on the new ones.
Right.
I forget how many hours it has on it. That Bill probably knows, 7,000 hours, but it works.
Right.
Exactly. Don't get caught up in buying another $75,000 machine when it's only putting on 200 hours.
Right, and it's loading plants for an hour, a few days a week.
Yeah, and we put it out in snow.
Right.
It has a heater and a cab.
Right, and it works.
And it works.
Right.
Versus a smaller box.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that Seth is sharing with us today, folks, is having a handle on your numbers. Aspire makes it easy. The fleet management module in there helps us be able to keep tabs on it. And then you can make good decisions and get the people involved. Like if you and Dalton made all the decisions without consulting, I mean, now we have a fleet manager, so you'd be an idiot for not consulting them, but you're also consulting the people using the equipment because you yourself, you're not in that equipment to the degree you were even 5 years ago.
No, I'm not around it.
No.
And my thing is it going to be used and is it going to make money?
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
Don't get caught up into it's cool.
Right.
And I like equipment.
Right.
I like riding the big loaders.
Yes, exactly. Right.
But
right.
Is it going to make money?
you money? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a handle on your numbers and you know if it's going to perform?
Yeah.
Seth, it's been great having you folks. Again, we had Seth Flum, our president from Grunder, in here today on the Grow Show powered by Steel. We hope in a small way we helped you with your fleet. If you're just stumbling upon episode number 2 here on the fleet, go back to the first part of this 2-part series. We hope you helped you. Obviously, tell your friends so we can help more landscape professionals across the country. And we will see you next week on The Grow Show. Thanks, Seth.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Grow Show. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and head to growgroupinc.com for more information and resources to grow your landscaping business. A special thanks to the folks at Steel, whose support makes this podcast possible and whose reliable handheld power equipment makes our jobs easier daily. We'll talk to you next week.